Hello and welcome to my lecture, which is a visual demonstration of my dissertation essay called Painting Beyond the Frame, Animation and Alchemy. It is also a kind of answer or reply to the other video on this DVD called What is Painting, even though that video, despite its questioning, offered an answer in a kind of performative demonstration, an answer within the text itself. The first place to start when considering painting is to consider the sign. Thus, this first part of the lecture is entitled The Autonomy of Painting, Flatness and Sign. We start with this man, Clement Greenberg, who in the 1940s and 50s defined painting in terms of its autonomy, medium specificity and flatness. In his essay, Modernist Painting, in 1960, Greenberg writes that flatness alone was unique and exclusive to that art. The enclosing shape of the support was a limiting condition or norm that was shared with the art of the theatre. Colour was a norm or means shared with sculpture as well as the theatre. Flatness, two-dimensionality, was the only condition painting shared with no other art, and so modernist painting orientated itself to flatness, and it did to nothing else. But what are we to understand by this notion of flatness? It's essentially illusionistic space. A space which is enclosed or framed. Can we not consider even this video as an enclosed space? Flatness. This screen you are watching is flat, as is that screen up there, a frame within a frame. And if a painting is an enclosed or existing in a flat illusionistic space, what does it mean if I show you a painting like this? A painting like this in a book? Or the same painting on this screen? What if I even showed you Duchamp's image of his urinal, which is on the screen and on your screen? And what if I showed you a painting of Duchamp's urinal here? Or a painting of Duchamp's urinal on this board and on your screen? Of course, Greenberg states that the first mark made on a surface destroys its virtual flatness, and the configurations of a Mondrian still suggest a kind of illusion of a kind of third dimension. However, what difference does it make if the painting exists here in this DVD or out there in your room while you watch this DVD? My problem was always with the implications that paintings can be reproduced, copied. They become what Frederick Jameson might call simulacrum, or what Jean Baudrillard would call the evil demon of images. I've never seen Picasso's Guernica, but I still understand its value by seeing its reproduction in a book like this. So the question is what is a mark, a sign? What is the value of a sign, even if it is within the flatness of a painting or within the flatness of the screen? What is a sign? Yeah. Okay, well, in Julian Bell's What is Painting, Bell writes that a mark is a sign you can see. A sign, in logic, is something which points beyond itself, something which means. It is the idea of the signifier and the signified. I say apple, and oh, here's an apple in my hand, and oh, there's an apple on the screen with a table on it. This is Magritte's Fine Realities, a combination of an apple and a table. Of course, Roland Barthes might say a signified can at once become a signifier by its reproduction, perhaps. Here's the work of Philip Guston. Philip Guston, in the 60s and 70s, developed his own form of visual language. From the chaos of his abstract expressionist work emerged the signs and figures we now see. You can see some more as well here, like some random hands, and a giant head looking at a bottle and a paintbrush. So what we have to think about is what is personal, what is mythological or historical in considering painting as a system of signs, of visual language. Here's one of my paintings. And again, what signs are present? What do they mean? What do they signify? We have a rabbit at the bottom being eaten by a big monster thing. We have the snake, we have the sun and the moon. What are these symbols? Of course, painting has always concerned itself with the sign. Hieroglyphics are an example, and even the caveman's paintings were a system of signs. Guston himself wanted to be like a cave painter, decoding the world as if he had fresh eyes. The painted sign for Paleolithic man had a magical element, as Lancelot Hogburn writes in From a Cave Painting to Comic Strip, when those who study the habits of pre-literate people speak of magic, they do not mean conveying or even superstition, they mean something closer to what we also call mascots, charms, scarecrows. Magic, as the anthropologist uses the term, is the identification of a symbol with the thing it stands for. By wearing the lion's skin, you endow yourself with the lion's courage and strength. The next segment of this lecture, within the screen, is entitled Painting as an Activity, the Transforming Sign and Play. By considering a painting as an arena, or a flat space of signs or half signifiers, or no signifiers at all, we have to understand the process in which these signifiers come into play, or are in play. A painting such as Jackson Pollock's No. 1 Lavender Mist from 1950 is a record of many signs that were in play, or we might say many marks or gestures in play. What we see here is the final moment of the painter's action, where these marks or signs have come to rest. A painting is thus evidence of an activity, an action. Painting cannot be understood just as having a space. It must also be understood as having a time. It is thus a process. Here are some photos or frames of Jackson Pollock at work on a piece of glass, photographed by Hans Namath. Here's some other photos as well by Hans Namath of Pollock in his studio throwing the paint onto the canvas. There we go. So, what these photos show is that painting has a time, a narrative, where marks, signs, gestures are evidence of activity, of play. Rosalind Krauss, developing a sign system from C.S. Peirce, understands these marks as traces, indices. Thus, perhaps painting goes beyond its frame, into the frames of time or activity. Here's another artist that works with the idea of action. This is Richard Serra, and he had a whole kind of vocabulary of actions and verbs to describe what he's doing, like to hit, to rub, to scrape off, to stop,